Kobe Bryant-themed socks in this game. How's that for a fun fact? NHL today, 7 games, including the New York Islanders and the New York Rangers. They'll drop the puck there at 5 o'clock Eastern time. UFC, 2 big upsets last night. Nate Diaz over Conor McGregor and Miesha Tate defeating Holly Holm. Next up, Miesha Tate will take on Ronda Rousey, who will come back. Men's college basketball in progress, top 25. Cincinnati leading number 24 SMU with a couple of seconds to go in the first half, 34-27. This is NBC Sports Radio.
From the Kcaa Weather Center, I'm Rod Tanner. Well, this morning we'll have rain. There's a chance of a shower into the afternoon. Our high 68 is winds gust at 25 miles an hour. We'll have more showers. We could have a thunderstorm tonight, low 45. Showers continue Monday. We could have a thunderstorm in the afternoon. Some of those storms could produce heavy downpours. Our high 59. There's a chance of showers and thunderstorms Monday night. Mostly cloudy skies will gradually clear with a low of 41. Tuesday we'll have a sunny day. Our high 71. That's your weather forecast for this hour from Kcaa, 106.5 FM and 1050 AM, the stations that leave no listener behind.
The most diversified radio station on the dial, Kcaa.
It's time for the Kcaa Community Calendar, brought to you exclusively by Learn for Life, a growing network of public charter schools. The clear mission of Learn for Life is to motivate and mentor students who have dropped out of school and provide them with the personalized education and technical training necessary to advance their lives.
Here's a look at the Kcaa Community Calendar. I'm Di Rice. The San Bernardino County Sheriff's Athletic Federation introduces the Compassion Fitness Campaign. If you're looking to get in shape, look no further. The Sweat Boot Camp is here. Compassion Fitness will run through March 26th. Can't afford a fitness boot camp? I bet you can, because it's free as long as you're willing to donate winter clothing or personal hygiene items upon entry. See, not only will you be doing something great for yourself, you'll be doing something great for the homeless in our community. The Sheriff's Athletic Federation will be partnering with Joe Smith and Sweat. The SAF is a nonprofit organization established in 1984 to promote fitness within the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. Sweat boot camps will be held every Saturday until March 26th. Start times are at 9:30 a.m. at Sweat Athletics, located at 4833 Lanier Road in Chino. While you're thinking about it, do it. Sign up. Get in shape. Go to www.sweatathletics.com, and sign up for a boot camp date. I'm Di Rice, and that's the Community Calendar on Kcaa 1050 AM and 106.5 FM.
The Kcaa Community Calendar is presented exclusively by Learn for Life, a growing network of public charter schools where students can complete their education on a part-time basis. To find a resource center nearest you, call 1-877-360-LEARN or visit Learn for Life online at learn4life.org.
Gotcha Racing Live, heard only on KCAA, is your command center for racing news, the hottest interviews, and DIY projects. We are your destination for interviews with racers and fans, on-track interviews, in-shop interviews with engine builders, car restorers. Hear from our correspondents on live track car shows. Gotcha Racing Live. Start your engine and race on over to KCAA 1050 AM and 106.5 FM every Saturday at our new time, 11 a.m. Gotcha Racing Live, where we put you in the driver's seat.
This is KCAA.
All right, the clouds have broken, the sun is shining, the mountains are clear. Boy, it's a beautiful day in Southern California. I don't know where you are, but it's okay. God will get to you soon with some beautiful weather, but boy, if you just want to know what it looks like, give us a call here No, just look west. Just look to Southern California. And take care of that, brother. I can't back up now to deal with that. You got to handle yourself just like we got to do here. The Mood Master is back. He's having a little issue with his hearing, but that's okay. He doesn't need to hear. He just needs to play because we're going to listen to him. We have Miss Tiana Felice in today. We have an author, a bona fide author, a lady who has written books, who's got some book signings coming up. And the name of her books are really provocative. One is Pigs and Pearls. The other is Jaded Diamonds. We'll get a chance to talk to her very shortly. We also have in the studio today, Mr. John Longville, former city councilman for the city of Rialto, former mayor of the city of Council, former mayor of the city of Rialto, former assemblyman representing this Southern California area in our state senate, and he's now the president of the San Bernardino Community College District. John Longville is a volunteer, a person who has served the Inland Empire for years. You wouldn't be able to look at him and tell that he's been here about 200 years. He doesn't look that old at all. John, how are you this morning?
Doing well, Wallace.
Wonderful. John, I spoke about your elected positions, and there's another position that you're working with. It's with the Water Conservatory?
With the San Bernardino Valley Water Conservation District. I'm on the board of directors of that as well.
And what is the goal and purpose of that water district, of the conservation?
Essentially, the Water Conservation District recharges the basin. We have pools that we've built below Seven Oaks Dam, for example, where the bottom of the pools is porous and allows water dumped into there to soak into the ground deeply enough to recharge the wells throughout a large area.
John, what you just said brings up one of my silly concepts, and I just don't know if it makes any sense since I've got an expert here. I'm going to ask you, John, does watering my grass does it soak into the ground and help become part of our resource, or does it just evaporate, go away, or is it something that...
It's a combination. Some of it will go back into the ground, but an awful lot of it won't. A lot of it does, in fact, evaporate. And we don't tend to water our lawns so much that it's going to have water that goes that deep.
Okay.
So very little of it is going to go back in. But that is an important point related to water conservation that most folks don't realize. They'll often focus on things like not running the water while you're brushing your teeth or things like that indoors. But the reality is 2/3 of all the water that we use in our homes and businesses is used outside. 2/3 of all the water. And again, I say that's of the water that's being used by our homes and businesses other than agriculture. So it's even worse. It's even worse than the 2/3. The reality is that the water that everybody else is using, our homes, our businesses, everybody except big business agriculture. All the rest of us use maybe 20% of the water in California. Agriculture uses about 80% of it. So when we talk about what we can do to conserve, if we aren't talking about agriculture, we're ignoring the biggest part of the problem.
Very, very interesting. So we're going to ask you about home gardens and things of that sort. In the city of San Bernardino, here in the Inland Empire, a couple of years ago, there was a big discussion about the groundwater, the lakes that we have under the city, and pumping those up and creating lakes on top of the ground. Are we out of that kind of water? Is that a realistic situation for now, or have we gone beyond that in terms of not actually having that type of groundwater anymore? Or did we really have it in the first place?
Yeah, it's questionable how realistic that was as a concept to begin with. We do have a significant amount of water. We're sitting on a very nice water basin here because of the flow from up in the mountains that are immediately north and east of us, but not enough that we can consider ourselves to be extraordinarily richly endowed with water. We're better off than most areas, and a big part of the credit for that has to go to Bob Holcomb, the longtime mayor of San Bernardino, who was one of the biggest leaders of the fight for us to not join the Metropolitan Water District back half a century ago. And if we had done that, they would be
in charge of our water.
In charge of our water. We would not have independent control over it. And since we have more water proportionately than the MWD has, they would be taking more of our water. So we're all indebted to Bob Holcomb.
I would agree to that, and not specifically for that reason. Bob was just a good guy and personally helped me out a couple of times. And so with that disclosure, I'd say I'd have to agree with you. He's a great guy. One of the things that we notice here in the city of San Bernardino is that we also have a separation of treasuries. Our water department has its own treasury, and the city has its own treasury, which turns out to be a good thing, being that the city is bankrupt. I'm going to ask you to take a moment and come up with what you think are the most important water issues that are facing us here in California, and how here in the Inland Empire we might be able to deal with that. And I cannot let you leave without obviously bringing up politics. You are one of the anchor brain politicians in the area. You know more. You know where people want to go. You know where we've been, and you're a fair person. I think you're one of the few people that I think I can have a political conversation with that would be objective. And so I look very much forward to that. I want to go to my left here and speak to you, Ms. Tiana, mainly because you are culturally dealing with the same kind of newness in our issues. Your book, Pigs and Pearls. What is that about? Tell us about the purpose of that book.
Well, Pigs and Pearls is a continuation of my first book, Jaded Diamonds. So it's in addition to the collection. So it is a book comprised of short stories and poetry. I like to focus on the struggles of the everyday woman. I also, highlight some, key points in there like relationships, friendships, the struggle when it comes to what we go through financially. I really wanted to kind of empower us a little bit when it comes to the reality that we live in, which a lot of us are all about flash,
yes.
All about looking like a whole lot of money and probably not having it, or just into,
the more you have, the less you have to look like it, right. And the less you have, the more you want to look like it.
It's absolutely backwards, and also I wanted to highlight the difference between maybe what some would say is a good guy or and a bad guy, or because sometimes looks can be deceiving, and so I kind of also added some value to the fellas and some warnings as well to some of the women that
Now, what kind of looks are deceiving? What are we focusing on? What are we picking on? What is it that we should anticipate as we look at people and make these judgments about future relationships?
Well, I would say that sometimes if, say we look across the room at a fella and we feel like maybe when it comes to the material side of things, if he doesn't have on a fancy pair of shoes or a certain brand, some women will disqualify him, will not give him the time of day. But I wanted to show that man can be at a period in his life when he's going through a struggle. He may be in school, he may be taking care of some kids, he may be a good guy regardless of who he looks like or what he looks like on the outside, and vice versa for the women as well. And so I just wanted to take it a little bit deeper and just continue on with the collection.
Well, Ms. Tiana, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with you and Mr. Longville. But when we come back, maybe you'll be able to start us off and tell us what are the ingredients of a good guy from across the room. Okay, this is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen. We're here on the case for truth and justice with the right information to help improve the situation. And folks, don't be afraid. Look outside. The sun's shining. I know you heard the rain on the window this morning and you rolled over and you went back to sleep and you're kind of fearing that the day's going to be one of an oppressive view. Hey, wake up! The sun's shining. Get outside and enjoy yourself. Take your phone with you. All you got to do is dial 832-999-1350. That's 832-999-1350. 1050, and you can take the show with you. I'm going to give it to you one more time because I know I gave you 3 different numbers on 3 different choices there. This is what it's about. This is what keeps life exciting. This is what makes Miss Tiana say some of those guys that look like they know what they're talking about across the room maybe don't. 832-999-1050. Take us with you on your cell phone. We'll be right back.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
KCAA, where every day is a great day.
Empire Talks back. I'm Wallace Allen on the case for truth and justice with the right information to help improve the situation. We have in the studio today with us Miss Tiana Felice. She is the author of Jaded Diamonds and the follow-up Pigs and Pearls. Her book, among other things, will show and tell us how a woman sitting on one side of the room at the party, at the lecture, in the classroom, maybe in church, and she sees someone that piques her interest. How does she know whether this is a good guy? That's the terminology we've been using, good guy and other guy, or is there a bad guy too?
I think there definitely is a bad guy.
There is a bad guy, okay. Which is easier to spot, the good guy or the bad guy? Let's start with the good guy. What does he look like? What's the vibe on a good guy?
I think with the good guy, first of all, they look you in your eyes. They ain't looking all, panning you up and down. Maybe they check you out. Honestly,
maybe
they're
they did that
you
before
out.
They start
Right.
looking you in the eye.
Right.
Okay, so they've already sneaked a look. Okay. All right.
But if they're really interested, they're going to try and find out what you're interested in. I think nowadays people don't even go out on dates. They're like, you want to Netflix and chill? You want to come over? They don't even ask you out on dates anymore.
Really?
Seriously. They don't ask you out on dates. They're like, you want to come through? So I think that's a red flag, to me, when you're asking me if I want to come through. I think the signs of a good guy is when he's asking you about yourself. Like, where are you from? What are some of the things that you like to do for fun? That kind of thing. And it surprises me when I meet a guy and I may be interested in him, but he'll throw me off by saying something crazy. God, I feel like they have to try to do something crazy. Like they have to try. Like they have to know. Even a good guy, like they have to know. Like, let me just try.
Give you the stupid test.
Yes.
Okay.
Most definitely.
And your job is to not pass the stupid test.
Yep.
Now, how can you tell if a guy is being sincerely expressing the things that you would like to see in a guy, or is he knowing what you would like to see in a guy and reading the proper script?
I really think that that's not something that you're going to find out.
So there is still room left for the guy who's kind of slick.
I think you got to put time on anything. Most definitely.
I just wanted to know for sure if there's, for the guy who's making preparations and, leaves home with the idea that, that pretty girl that I saw at the party last week, she didn't see me looking her over. So when I go to the party this week, I'll be able to look her straight in the eye. I already know what she looks like down below the eyes. And everything is good. And I'm going to really, and so this guy rolls up on you and he acts like the perfect idiot, that's never seen anything but your beautiful eyes. And, and it's how can you, at what point do you know, or should we have to read the book to find the answer to these questions?
I think that you most definitely just need to take your time. I think that women need to take some responsibility when they're engaging in, any type of conversation with men. as well. He can't be doing all the work. You have to ask him the appropriate questions as well. You have to take the time to hang out. Don't make decisions. I don't care how much you feel like you like him or he looks good or this and that. When you first meet him, put some time on it, spend some time together, let things marinate, and then you make the decision. The more you spend time with somebody, the more you will realize that this is a person you want in your life or this is not a person you want in your life.
John, we've both been around for a while. Does this sound very different from when you were courting? Do you guys still use the word courting?
I've heard the word, but I don't.
You don't know what it is? Okay, courting, John. They don't know what courting is. I guess that's when, from the point we meet the young lady or see the young lady from a distance across the room and make a decision that we would like to talk to her. I don't know, back in the old days, we probably made some mistakes and went and asked our friends, hey, do you know anything about? But I think maybe TV has shown us that you probably do better to build up your own history on the person. But does this sound familiar? Does it sound different to you, John, in terms of how you were as a younger man making these moves?
It doesn't sound that much different, Wallace, but despite the fact that in many ways I enjoy doing roasts. I enjoy being on stage, so to speak, that kind of thing. In my personal life, I'm a lot more bashful, so I probably tend to fall toward the bashful end of the spectrum. Would tend to be reluctant to initiate some kind of contact, or at least I'm a very slow.
I get
person.
you. He's the kind of guy who may be kind of standing out in class. He's standing out at parties and in the business world. He's standing out, but he's a little shy. And so how can women may interpret that as, he think he's something. He's kind of stuck up. He don't want to talk to nobody. How do we deal with that, Miss Tiana?
I don't know, because I feel like I'm that person too. I feel like when I can be in the sitting room and talk to everyone, but when it comes down to that one-on-one, I'm more like reserved. I just think that when someone, especially with the man, when he really wants you, the shyness, the bashfulness, whatever else it is that may, typically hold him back, he's gonna break through all that, because that's how much he wants to engage with you. I really feel like when someone is truly interested, all of that falls to the wayside, and especially once they get to know you, I feel like you kind of inspire them to kind of keep on going. So I just think things like some of the rules or some of the normal ways they would handle things kind of goes away when they're
okay. How do we separate a guy who really is wanting to be attentive and get your attention, and how do we know that guy from a stalker?
I think.
I hear guys say, "Oh yeah, man, I want to follow. I want to," and they're not in their minds being that. Mm-hmm. But if he was chasing my daughter like you're talking about doing, mm-hmm. I'd say, "Oh, this is a stalker, and Daddy getting ready to do mm-hmm. something here," without telling daughter, because she may like that.
Yeah, I think that you'll tell by your instincts when you begin.
Are there any other fathers in the room? I think that word that just kind of slipped by. I don't know if you heard that. You got an uncle. The idea of, wow, this person lurking around my daughter or lurking around my niece.
I got stalked. I got stalked by a lady.
You got stalked?
Yeah. I had to call the police.
Did you call the police?
Yeah.
Mr. Garcia said he has been a victim of stalking.
They were trying to take me to jail. They didn't believe me.
Well, I mean, you're going to tell me this beautiful woman was stalking you?
Oh, she wasn't beautiful.
Okay, now you're turning into Trump.
I didn't say that.
What are you going to talk bad about the woman because you didn't like the way she looked?
She wasn't ugly either. She wasn't beautiful. She wasn't ugly.
No, that's the eyes of the beholder. See, all of this. Now, when you hear men just kind of cat talking like we're talking there, what does that do for you?
It cracks me up.
It cracks you up.
Okay.
I think it's funny. Okay, we're still innocent. We didn't say anything. Get out of place there. Okay, so what's the theme? You're having a book signing on the 19th.
On the 19th, March 19th, at Zara's Books and Things in Inglewood, California.
Okay.
And then on April 23rd, I'm having one at the Feldham Library, a part of the Author's Day there. So that would be April 23rd. I'm not sure on the time. I believe it starts at 2. But I'll update all of my information on TianaFelice.com as well as on Facebook. I also have an Instagram. You just type in my name, Tiana Felice, and bam.
And we can get advice on our love life.
I don't know if I'm the best person to give advice because...
Well, nobody's the best person. I mean, who would be qualified to be the best person to give on their love life? Somebody that's been so successful that they've never lost in love, or someone who's been so unsuccessful that they've never won in love? Who's got the best advice?
No one.
No, so the idea is to talk about it, right? And that engagement of people in conversation about relationships, how are we doing? Are men and women getting along better? I don't see that we're having any reduction in the population. How are things going? Is there a big issue between men and women now that is new, or different, or are we making it?
I feel like we've lost our way a lot.
Really?
I know here recently I've been hearing about a few people getting married, and that makes me happy. But I feel like
so just hearing that people get married could make you happy?
It makes me happy because I feel like we hear more about funerals than weddings.
You can't get a divorce without getting married.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, like,
so there's got to be some other mark of success now, other than, well, they're married, it's okay now.
No, because there's so many men and women out there having babies, and no one is willing to commit. And it's not just the men, women these days, they're like off the chains too.
Well, yeah, because we've got TV shows and movies that are telling women, hey, you don't need a man, you can have this baby and you can raise the baby. And I've seen some where, they get into the issue of what really happens there.
Become a man, become a woman.
Yeah, what do you think is the ultimate in a relationship with a man and a woman? Or, I don't know if if I'm permitted to say it like that now, between people. I mean, we've got a world that's evolving way differently in terms of what we accept and talk about and walk the streets with than we've had in the past. So, as your advice for women looking at men looking at women, what's the world of gay people and lesbian people as far as your book is concerned, or as far as your writing is concerned?
I think that we should all be open. I think that love is love regardless of what the sexual orientation is. I think that that's the beautiful thing. However, I just think that we all need to maintain our own morals, whatever our religious beliefs are, whatever we feel strongly about. I don't think we should be swayed regardless of what the new normal is, regardless of who is doing what. Remain concrete on what you feel you should be doing. Even as adults, we all still succumb to peer pressure, and it is because of all the TV shows and all of the stuff that we hear about. So I think that it's important for us to go back to those old-fashioned roots and remember how we were raised, regardless of what our homegirl is doing, regardless of what our friend down the street is doing, and just remember that love, because that's what we're founded on when it comes to friendships, relationships, anything. Even when it comes to just meeting a person, you just have to be the type of person that loves so hard that you care about other people.
Now, that same sense of responsibility and involvement with another person, how does that translate with young people into our civic life? For instance, now we're heading into a presidential election. We're in a presidential election year. Political campaigns are going on all around us. The things that you and I have just talked about in terms of personal relationships, in many cases will be discussed as a political issue. How does your concern in your book in relationships, how does it translate out into how your generation is involved in politics and the civic life that we are in?
I just feel like we all want to know that we matter. I feel like we, obviously, as people of color, have been fighting for generations, for hundreds of years, and we want to know that we matter. Once Obama came into play, of course, a lot of us that did not typically care about politics, we cared because we seen this man that we felt represented us. So moving forward, we want to know that the person we elect in office is someone that cares about what we go through financially, what we're going through when it comes to the streets, when it comes to police brutality, when it comes to anything. We want to know that we matter, that you're out there fighting for us, and then not even just my culture or black people. us as a whole, we want to move forward. We want to continue to evolve. I don't want to see the next person, because maybe their sexual orientation is not what mine is, be bashed or be, criticized or whatever. I want everything to be open, and I feel like the young people just want their voice to be heard.
This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen. I'm just speaking with Tiana. She is an author discussing relationships between people, male and female, how to spot the good guy from across the room, and to look beyond the beauty of the woman's physical attributes to her inner spiritual self. And I also have Mr. John Longville, a activist, a volunteer, a community volunteer, an elected official, a man that I've known for years, and I couldn't think of anyone that cares more about his community and cares more about people than John Longville. So as we go into the next break and come out of that break, Miss Tiana and the young folk that we have around here, we understand the concept of those issues that affect the black community directly, the issues of police, Black Lives Matter, employment, things of that sort. I'd like to know how you feel about something that's extremely basic to all of us when we come back, and that's water. Mr. Longville has moved on from and he still holds elected positions, but he's in a group that is concerned about conserving water. We're concerned about, gotta be concerned about water. So when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about how we work together to do things that are kind of down the middle of the road that we all have to deal with, and how we personally can be affected by those things. This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen. I'm going to take this short break, and we'll be right back.
When I hear your name, maybe your sweet, sweet voice was ringing my ear. It stimulate my senses, girl, when you are near.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
You're listening to KCAA, your good neighbor along the way.
Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen, and I did manage to break the earphones again, but that's okay. I've got one good ear, and that puts me in the same shape as most people out here. So we're in good shape. I'm speaking with Mr. John Longville. I also have Miss Tiana Felice. She is an advocate for truth and justice between young men and young women as they meet and greet each other. And we are all concerned about how we get along with the resources of the world. There's only a certain number of women and men who can get along, and there's only a certain amount of water on the planet. We want to see how we can effectively become involved in these things. Tiana, truthfully, I'm very impressed with you. I'm very impressed with your response here. I'm very impressed with what you think is the issue and the time that you're putting into it. Relationships are very critical, and they're very important. I've been married 40 years. That means there's 80 years between us, 40 for her, 40 for me, and they've all been something that I'd like to repeat. So I don't know if I'm over lucky and she's unlucky, or vice versa, but we're together and we're stuck together enjoying it. But once we get together like that, then all other kind of things come in place. How do you raise your children? How do you be sure that there's a good job to supply and provide? And one of the things that we very seldom think about is water. Water is a big issue. Like Mr. Longville was saying, most of the time when we talk about water conservation, people are telling you to turn the water off with your toothbrush when you're washing your teeth, and wash your hands, turn the water off until you... He has just brought out to us a statistic that's very awakening. that most of the water that we use is for agricultural purposes, which is to grow food. I heard somewhere that those avocados that I like to eat, that the avocado tree needs some 20 gallons of water a day, or I don't, and a large amount of water every day make me ashamed to eat the avocado because of how much water it takes. Is water an issue as we talk, as you have your parties, as we go to school? Where does water, does water come up, Tiana? Tell the truth. No, you don't have to. No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. But I still think that, the fact that we're talking about this, it does kind of let me know how important it is. And I know that they say that at some point in time, if we are not careful, that we may run out of our water resource. I don't know how true that is because I definitely haven't researched it, but I did hear something like that.
Well, the real reason I'm bringing this up, I'm going to take it into the politics. Water is critical, but we don't hear people talking about water at the political, as they running for president, or maybe as they run for senator. Maybe a little bit, but that's without water. Water, as I gauge it, water appears to be more expensive than gasoline at the gas stations. Have you checked how much, you can buy that little pint of quarter water for $1.69? You buy 2 of those, you need about 4 of those to make a gallon.
Oh, I never even thought of that.
Yeah, so that puts our water up there about $5 a gallon, unless you go to the store where they'll let you fill up the big jug for a quarter a gallon. So it's very important to us.
Wallace, when you're talking about purchasing water like that, you should keep in mind that in as bad as the water is in some particular areas, and we're recently reminded of that by the self-caused disaster in the state of Michigan, where the governor very foolishly and irresponsibly changed the water source, causing problems for the drinking water supply of the entire city, and real major problems. But in general, in most places, the water that's coming out of your tap is actually likely to be at least as good as, if not better than, the water you buy in bottles at the store. Most people don't realize there is no standard that water you buy in the store has to meet. There are standards for tap water. It has to be tested under various state and federal regulations. And so it is monitored much more closely. When you're buying water from a bottle, there's really no standards it has to meet.
Well, wait a minute, John. They talk about the cool, clear spring water from the mountains and crystal clear from the mountains, and they never say that the deer just did his job, a couple of meters up above where the water's being collected, and they don't.
And you believe all the advertising?
Well, no. I believe that from what I believe, it sounds like they just take it straight out of the creek that the deer pooped in, and so I'm not interested in drinking the water.
I thought it was tested though. I thought they did test it because I heard something about Aquafina being the best water because it passed.
Well, Aquafina goes through a tap. Aquafina, from what I understand, is not mountain water. Aquafina is tap water.
Okay.
I don't remember the specific brands. I believe that Aquafina is one of those that's just as you were describing it, but I don't remember all the details.
It's a Pepsi product.
Yeah, but most of the bottled water is coming from some municipal water supply someplace, and there are some that are bottled from unusual sources, but they tend to be very high priced.
We have the issue of the Hershey.
Yes.
Okay, that supposedly brings the water out of the mountains above the Morongo Indian reservation, and it's supposedly your water, my water. It's free water, but they've got a lease to bottle the water and sell it to us.
Scary to me.
Oh, that's scarier. That's scarier than that old slick guy across the hall, across the room, looking at you, trying to get you to come ride in that big, nice Lexus.
Right. Because sometimes I'll go without water. Like if I don't have like a case of water, I'll go without water. I'll if I have juice, I'll drink that, because I feel like if you taste the water and it's nasty, then it's like you don't want it. And you spend all this money on this case water, and then you find out that it's probably dirtier than the water coming out of your sink.
You better straighten up. God's not going to let your skin stay that pretty with you drinking all of that stuff you just described. You better start getting some water. But that's one of the issues. And politically, there's so how as you are, for instance, going to go out and speak about your book, how often do politics, the real politics, the register to vote, and deal with the issues of your civic life, does that come up at all?
Well, I actually did, put a couple of lines in Pigs and Pearls, just about, Obama and the election. But just as far as the overall, when I go out, the conversations, nope, most of the times, not. I don't think that we even think that far. I definitely think the issue of water, I know with the whole Flint, Michigan thing, that brought some things to the forefront. I don't think we realize how the small things, like the things that are probably
the
essential
small
to
thing
us.
like the polluted water that will have a generation of children from Flint, Michigan, having to be tested and monitored because of the lead content. Lead reduces their cognitive abilities. It reduces their ability to learn. We've got studies that indicate that children, because of that slow learning, tend to become criminals, or I hate to say criminal, because we criminalize everything that we don't understand, and sometimes it just goes too far. But they will be moved into the realm of prison life, potentially, based on the fact that they lead in the water, hard to learn, hard to get along with, and when you're hard to get along with so far in America, the place that we put you isn't in pretty much, it's not kind circumstances in most cases here. The election coming is a very important election for many, many reasons. We have the Democratic Party, the Republican Party. The Republican Party seems to be trying to have some kind of volcanic existence where it's erupting every day and trying to change the players. Democrat Party seems to have started thinking that it's going to be a pretty easy setup for Hillary Clinton, but we find that there's a rush and a move to get away from the establishment, both on the Democrat side and on the Republican side. And this thing that we call establishment, status quo, seems to include ignoring water and ignoring people, ignoring the things that are really important to what we do for the sake of the enrichment of a few, both in terms of our resources and our most precious resource, people, and how we regard each other. I think that your solution of involvement and paying attention is probably the same solution that Mr. Longville would suggest in terms of realizing the best parts of how to deal with our water issues and our political issues. John, as you look at politics, what is the one thing that you think may be pushing people away from the establishment? You've been a member of the establishment in terms of you were city councilman, you were mayor, state assemblyman. You're now the president of the board of the college district here. Those are establishment things. But John, I know you, and I know that you're not, you don't go burn buildings down and turn tables over and things like that. But I do know that you advocate for people who are not necessarily empowered all the time. And as you look at the situation we're in now, what are your thoughts about the political situation and how people are reacting, why they're reacting, and your solution? And it looks like I'm going to have to take a short break and come back and get to that answer. This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen. We'll be right back.
It would be untrue. You know that I would be a liar if I was to say to you, girl, we couldn't get much higher.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
For more local radio every day, tune into KCAA Loma Linda.
This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen. We are blessed this morning to have several experts with us. One, Miss Tiana. She's an expert in relationships. She's shaking her head, which proves no, which proves that she is. Because if she thought she was, then that would probably indicate that she isn't. So she's willing to learn, and I think that makes her very important in the realm of relationships and experts. And Mr. John Longville. John is an advocate for life. He's an advocate for fairness. He's an advocate for equality, and he is an expert at it. He's spent his whole life being a volunteer, an elected official. John, you're probably one of the few elected officials I know that had become a millionaire.
Well, I know an awful lot who haven't.
Well, let me say one of the few who've been elected and selected and gone and represented folks and didn't come back with more money than you were getting paid. So I'm not going to over discuss that, but all of that to say, those are some of the reasons that I feel so good about knowing you and being and willing to vote for you if you were to run for anything. So,
well, thank you, Wallace.
We had asked you a question before the break about how you view the political realm right now. Let me let you go on and talk to us.
Well, you know, I know we're getting close to the end of the hour here. So there's so many different aspects.
And you will be back. Yep. You're not. This is not over. So take your time.
There's so many aspects of the subject that we could discuss, but I guess the single most significant thing I would urge people to do is just to actually become more involved, because we spend a huge amount of our time being entertained. All of us do. Whether it's watching, television situation comedies, dramas, whatever, sports activities, we all spend a huge amount of our time on pure entertainment. And I would argue that if you get involved a little bit in political activities, you'll find it's every bit as entertaining, every bit as entertaining as the football game or the situation comedy or the Walking Dead episode or whatever it is that you otherwise would be spending the bulk of your time on. The difference is, it doesn't really matter who wins the football game or who gets the laughs on the situation comedy or who gets eaten on Walking Dead.
Okay.
But it does matter whether you have water that's going to make your kids unintelligent because of lead. It does matter if the atmosphere is being filled with lead from gasoline. You know, we're here. Ironically, today is March 6th. Today, if he were still alive, would be the 96th birthday of Congressman George Brown, who died in 1979. Back more than half a century ago, Wallace, when he was a member of the State Assembly, George Brown introduced legislation to stop adding lead to gasoline in California because of the problem that it causes people. And we ended up we now have unleaded gas, and the amount of lead in leaded gas is lower than it was. But George Brown started that back in the 1960s.
I'll think about that next time I complain about my gas prices. But yes, you're right. Those are the things that make it better for us. They can easily get politicized because we don't speak of that tax as a health issue. We speak of it as an economic issue. You know, whether we're spending the money and deriving the benefit. And it's important who gets elected because of the projects that get done based on that election. If we care about the environment, and who shouldn't care about the environment? Even looking across the room at that guy, trying to figure out who he is, we want the weather to be nice. We want to be able to go outside. We want to be able to enjoy life. And so that means we have to kind of wake up and get out of the realm that we've been comfortable in and stick our heads into something else that really has our life chances
I
involved.
think I'll definitely start to look into that more, because with my daughter, like, we both kind of broke out all over our face. We don't even know why, and it could be because of the type of water we're drinking or the lack thereof, or it could be because of the pollution or whatnot. And I think even when it comes down to the food and everything that we're consuming, we don't realize, because sometimes we don't really even know what we're putting into our bodies. So I definitely think it's a conversation we should have more of and pay attention to, and like he said, not be so about all the entertainment, because some of these things can end our lives. These are the things that really matter, just for the long haul and to be healthy. We definitely need to care.
John, with young people still being a very critical part of your life, because as president of the school district, San Bernardino College, San Bernardino, say it for me, San
Bernardino Community College District.
That's right. So you don't want to get old and feeble-minded like that. There is a move. Many of our young people are not registered to vote. I heard last night that there's a discussion about, as people register for school, college, that could be a database that would be moved on for registration with the state for election purposes. Not necessarily registering them into a party, but registering them so that they could be approached by the parties, but they would at least be registered. How does something like that feel to you?
It's an excellent idea to do anything we can to increase the number of folks who are registered to vote and active, but you have to...
that's a philosophical point that everybody doesn't agree with.
Everybody doesn't agree with it, Wallace. That's the problem. Right now, the reality is, and this is just cold, hard politics, that the biggest battles that go on in our political system are largely between the two biggest political parties, which in the United States are the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. And the pretty well-known statistics show that the Republican Party is largely older white people, and that younger people are disproportionately not registering Republican, and folks who are not white are largely not registering Republican. And so the Republican Party, in defense of its own power, tries to block efforts to increase voter registration, to make it easier to register, to make it easier to vote, because they see that as things that will work against them in winning elections.
I hear people say that, well, if you're not educated on the issues, that you shouldn't vote because your vote may not mean anything. Well, just because you're educated on the issue doesn't mean that you're right in terms of your education. So,
absolutely.
So it's kind of like a multi-answer test. Yeah, some of them you can get right, some of you can get wrong. I am personally one of those people that says, okay, you need to go vote. But if your person that you voted for doesn't win, or if they do win, you still need to be active. Because now that they're across the hump, you've got to be sure that they're going to keep in the right direction. This is another reason I'm impressed with Mr. Longville. He hasn't disappeared. The man fell off a bike, almost died. Fell off a bike. Seriously, how many bones did you not break, John?
Well, I broke some ribs and fingers and a lot of stuff, but that wasn't what almost killed me. It was other parts of the accident. I was going down Little Mountain Road and I speak into the microphone so people don't think they're misunderstanding this, at 60 miles an hour. That's 60
on that
miles
bicycle.
an hour on a bicycle. That's correct, yeah.
And fell.
Well, I had an involuntary interaction with a van, is what happened, but that I stupidly attempted to pass on the right.
Isn't Little Mountain the one that curves and like
Yeah.
goes
Yeah,
around?
yeah, that
that's
was
a scary. Even in a car, that's a scary drive down.
Well, it was fun. The problem was I was passing this van on the right. He couldn't see I was there, so he was trying to smooth out the curve, and I was right along the edge of the road there.
Oh, wow.
First time he tapped me, I managed to stay erect. The second time I went over. But
have you been on your bike since then?
oh yes, but I've found since then I can't because of the damage to my knees. I can't pump quite as hard. Fastest I've been able to get up to has been 57 miles an hour since then. I've never been able to pass 60 again, and I really wanted to get to 62 and a half, which would be 100 kilometers an hour.
Well, you're not the person that swerves in and out of the cars, right, on the freeway. That's not you. Like,
No.
You swerve
This is
in
a
and out,
bicycle,
like,
not a motorcycle.
Oh, okay.
Bicycle.
Oh, it really.
John,
Oh, okay.
have you tried to get to 60 going down Little Mountain again?
Oh, of course, yeah.
But you can only get to 57.
57 is the fastest.
Do you
I've been
think it's
able
the
to make.
tires or something? Or
No. It's me. My knees were damaged in the accident, and I can't pump as hard as I did. When I had the accident was 10 years ago, and so I was 56 years old. I'm 66 now. I can't pump quite as hard.
Well, that's probably a good thing, John. That's probably a good thing. But after he's stuck around. Folks, there's people that go out and lose an election, and you never hear from them again. And that bothers me. If you're going to get involved, you need to be involved for the run. If you like that girl, you like that guy across the room, go for it. You might look up and be like my wife.
But if they say they're not
she's had me
interested,
for 40 years. It's a
leave 'em
wonderful thing. And I've had her for 40. That's 80 years of relationship. I don't know if we've using up other people's oxygen or not. But Miss Tiana, I wish you all of the success in the world as you continue with your relationship advice. Who knows? You may like to put an article in West Side Story, a lovers.
one day.
Soon. Let's do it before let's do it before you get very expensive. Okay. Because I understand that people really enjoy your meetings, and they have a great time. And we want to one more time let folks know that you'll be having your seminar again at.
I will have a signing at Zara's Books and Things on March 19th. That's in Inglewood. I will also have another book signing at the Feltham Library on April 23rd. I'll have some workshops coming up throughout the year, something that I'll do every now and again. But you can just go to my website, TianaFelice.com, to get all of the information.
Very good. John, in terms of our water issues, in terms of our local politics, I'd like to invite you to come back anytime, and maybe specifically again next week. And let's talk a little bit about some of the politics and the things that people are doing around here that are important. One of those things I'd like to plant on your mind, especially since you're with the college district, San Bernardino Valley College, I believe, does the curriculum for the sheriff's department, where they train the deputy sheriffs out there. And up at Crafton Hills, we do the fire.
We have a lot of emergency services.
Right, and so those emergency service guys, all of them, to me, would do better if they had an opportunity to do an internship, specifically an internship in a bankrupt city like San Bernardino, so that once they left, they would even be more experts, and they'd be able to help provide more. So we can talk about that kind of thing next week and even more. I'd like to thank our mood master. He's in here today really pumping it up. I'm not going to say I'm sad that his microphone didn't work, but I am glad that his guitar is. This man
my daughter's birthday.
Oh, today's his daughter's birthday. What's her name?
Princess Lauren.
Princess Lauren. Oh, baby. I love you, and happy birthday to you. You're how old?
Me? My daughter, not me.
No, not you. Your daughter.
3 years old.
3 years old. Your granddaughter. It's his granddaughter. He got no daughter 3 years old. His granddaughter's 3 years old. God bless you. Thank you for joining us. We'll be here next week under two circumstances. One, if the good Lord's willing. Two, if the creek don't rise. God bless you. Thank you for spending your time with us. It's an investment, believe me.
If you've ever been held down before, I know you refuse to be held down.
Your NBC Sports Radio update starts now.
Into the sunset. I'm Jeff Nathanson. Peyton Manning will ride his Denver Bronco into the sunset. Manning will announce tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern time that he is retiring from the NFL after 18 seasons. He played in the Super Bowl 4 times. He won 2 of those.
Being on 2 different teams, winning a Super Bowl with each team, I'm proud of